TJ, this is so mission driven, and the ability to move people from feeling that they're hopeless to moving them to feel hopeful, it's such an honor.
You're listening to the TJ Moore Podcast. Today's guest is Meridith Elliott Powell from Asheville, North Carolina. She's a Hall of Fame speaker and business growth strategist who's passionate about helping her clients learn the strategies to leverage uncertainty and turn fear into fuel. Meridith has spoken to some of the biggest brands globally, including Microsoft, 3M, IBM, State Farm, and CVS Health. And I know she's a super active and energetic person who's always enjoying time outdoors, hiking, mountain biking, golfing, and playing tennis. She actually just made her first hole-in-one this year. Meridith, thanks for joining me.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Now, Casey Height, the CEO of Aeroflow, has said this about working with you. He used one word that I want to emphasize: powerful. He said, I completely credit Meridith and her powerful strategies for thriving in uncertainty for our exponential growth in the last 3 years. So you're famous for calling uncertainty a competitive advantage. Out of all the videos that I've seen you do, I find that phrase the most memorable: competitive advantage. Can you break down this for everyone listening?
When uncertainty hits most organizations and most people freeze or they move into reactive mode. If you can learn to leverage uncertainty, not fear it, but embrace it, you have an edge against every single competitor.
You have taught these concepts on stages, on workshops, virtual, in every sort of format that you possibly can. You also have your own podcast and you co-host another podcast as well. Your message has resonated with so many people, especially on LinkedIn. I want to mention that your audience is already at more than 56,000 followers, and it's growing every single day. So how did you start to research uncertainty?
I had been out there speaking about sales and leadership, and just like any good business person, I just started listening to my customers. And way back in 2016, which never seems like that long ago, but it was, we're looking at 11 years now, basically. Every single customer I was talking to was saying the same thing. Now, back in 2016, the economy was really good, and we'd sort of been on this long run of pretty even and easy marketplace to do business in. But every single business owner I talked to said the same thing. We're having our best year on record, but this uncertainty. Everybody was waiting for the shoe to drop. And I just started to think, why do we all see uncertainty as a negative? And why are we all waiting for uncertainty rather than anticipating the shifts and changes that are coming in the marketplace? And what would happen if we started to view uncertainty differently, if we started to act differently around uncertainty? And that just put me on a mission. I started studying companies and organizations that grew during world wars, those that grew during the Great Depression, those that had come through, when COVID hit. I wanted to find companies that had thrived through a pandemic. And so it was really interesting because most companies disappear. In fact, Gartner just released a report that said 45% of Fortune 500 companies are expected not to be here in the next 10 years. And the reason is not because they make a bad product, but because they're still fearing uncertainty, not leveraging it. And I wanted to crack the code on what I see as the biggest challenge facing industry today.
Those companies that were thriving during times of war, they often started to pivot their business toward what was the greatest need at the time, not anticipating the wants and all the frivolous things that sort of can go away in times that are tough. But they're like, okay, we're going to get into selling the essentials now. You have a great question on your website that really stuck out to me that says, where is uncertainty costing you the most? And I want to get into this related to businesses. How does it affect their sales?
It impacts sales from the standpoint that you are no longer selling a product or service. You're solving a problem. It's exactly what you said. Those companies that thrived in uncertainty, what I found was They were very rooted in the vision of their company and the values of their company. They were flexible as to the products and services that they sold. And I really want to emphasize that because I think a lot of companies die because we're still trying to sell a product or service that no longer fits the need in the marketplace anymore. And I'll give you a quick example. When the Great Depression hit, everybody was still selling laundry detergent, but people were poor. They were broke. And Procter and Gamble shifted their products and services to do laundry detergent to what was known as Dreft. And Dreft was inexpensive. It was marketed for people who were on a budget. Now, it was the same detergent. They just rebranded it to speak to the need of the marketplace.
What leadership skills can help people reframe their relationship with uncertainty?
Number one is you need to have a very strong vision. Whether you're leading yourself or you're leading a team, you need to have very strong clarity of where you are headed and where you are going. Meaning, Martin Luther King Jr. didn't say, we have a problem. He says, I have a dream. And people could see that dream and they could buy in. Now, the second is you got to back that up with vulnerability. I think in the face of uncertainty, you got to be able to connect to people and relate to people. And to try to act like what they're going through isn't difficult or isn't hard, you're going to lose people. Number three, as a leader, you need to ask for help. You need to say, we need to increase sales. We need to find a new market. But how do we need to do that? Because when you ask people how, you simultaneously give them voice and you give them responsibility. And if you're losing your team in the face of uncertainty, it's because they don't feel heard. And if they don't feel heard, they don't feel valued, then they are afraid. And if they are afraid, they will shut down.
I've studied so many different religions and the history of them. And at the core of all of these spiritual leaders, doesn't matter what culture you're from, they have a theme about meeting people where they're at.
Yes.
Focusing on only problems is a good way to sort of, perk up people's ears and get some attention. However, they're only going to continue listening to you if you're solution oriented.
I was thinking about the fact that it's so easy to get people to follow you when you divide them, when you make them angry, when you yell at them that everything is wrong. But it doesn't last very long. Like it'll get you through a midterm or it'll get you through an election. But eventually people look at you and they want to know that you've got a solution. And that's why I think that example of Martin Luther King Jr. is he could have stood up and complained all day long because everything was wrong and unfair and unjust. But his goal wasn't to make people angry. His goal was to help people see what was possible and to guide them to that. And that's what's happening in the face of uncertainty. Like you take something like a pandemic, it's not fair, but that doesn't get us anywhere focusing on what isn't fair. We want to follow a leader who goes, I get it. I understand it. Boy, these walls we've got to get over, they are huge. But here's what's on the other side. Come on, we can do it. Let's pull together. And the power of that is just incredible. So you've got to have this clarity. Then you have to connect with people. And then the way you engage people is by asking them for help, is by saying, here's the things we need to do. What are your ideas and opinions? Because the truth is that number one, you can't do it by yourself. Number two, people want something to do. The antidote to anxiety is action. Like if I am afraid, give me something to do. And if you give me something to do, then it calms down my fear. If you calm down my fear, you're going to spark innovation, creativity, all the skills that I need to solve what seems like an insurmountable problem.
There's a phrase that if you want to build trust with someone, especially new, ask them to do a simple favor, either for you, with you, but what you're activating within them is a sense of purpose and a sense of giving. A lot of the service-based leadership, if you study this, it's actually doing the giving with them. So you're actually asking something, doesn't have to be big, but you're asking something of them so that you're meeting them in the middle and you're building that bridge of trust together. So one of the phrases you use that I love is let's turn overwhelm into ownership. at every level. Everybody wants to grow their business, their career. So I want to hear your take on where the deeper intention of strategic growth can radically change someone's trajectory.
You talk to anybody right now, and pretty much what they're going to tell you is they're overwhelmed. I mean, I started writing down how many times I spoke to prospects and they told me, I didn't respond to you because I'm drowning. I talked to 3 coaching clients right now, completely this week, completely overwhelmed and completely drowning. Now, what does that tell me? What it tells me is they feel no control over their life, over what they're doing at work. And if people feel no control, they're unproductive. They can't move forward. So this whole idea of strategic growth, if you want to strategically grow your company, first of all, get really clear on the priorities. What are the things in your organization that move the needle? You've got this vision, so there can't be more than 3 or 4 things that really need to happen to move that needle. I mean, we can look at my own business right now. I mean, the things that move the needle are me talking and engaging with clients. The more that I am looking and talking, engaging, the more that I am on stages, the more that I am producing content, whether it's talking with you or working on a book or something like that. Those are the things. Now, organizing my CRM, I mean, all those things are important, but they don't move the needle. So number one, get really clear on what moves the needle. And then once you know what moves the needle, get the team involved in solving how you can best move the needle. This whole idea of ownership, if I could say one thing that I really feel has been wrong with leadership since the crash of 2008, has been this command and control because we have been worried about our companies. When 2008 happened, baby boomers were ready to retire, and because the bottom fell out of everything, they ran back into the workplace, and they have stayed. They have not left. And with that, they have held on so tightly to their companies. 82% of managers today, mid-level and below, say they have not had the training to do their job. Add to that, every year my company does a research report, and the biggest generation struggling with how to navigate uncertainty is older millennials, the ones moving into CEO and C-suite positions. Why? Because we haven't given them the reins. You need to engage people in this process. They will be productive, they will commit, and their fear will be calmed down.
How does control play into this idea of letting go of some of that, having your hands so white-knuckled on the steering wheel of your own life to accept that uncertainty is coming? Now, how do people drive forward in knowing that?
You have to be incredibly focused while simultaneously being incredibly agile. And so the way that we work with companies and we help them is that, first of all, you can't have control. This is the first time that companies have really been in a situation in 150 years where there is more change happening outside of their business than inside it that can impact their ability to be successful. Every company I talk to, they're so dependent upon what happens with elections, what happens with technology, what happens with gas prices, what happens with the global, uncertainty and the wars that break out. Number one, you have to be very clear about your vision and very clear about what moves the needle, and keep the team radically focused on those things. If I work for you as a leader, every time I see you, I should hear that vision come out of your mouth. You should walk up to me and say, Meridith, hope you had a great weekend. Don't forget, we're going to be number one in the market next year. Whatever your vision is, but I should hear it out of your mouth all the time. You should know, and you should have it cascading through the organization, that at the end of every day, I am focused on those priorities and my actions move that needle, and I understand how I contribute to the overall. Now, the flip of that is, as a leader, you have to get your team in shape for change. Your job is to get them so nimble and so comfortable and expecting that they're going to be doing things differently every 3 to 4 months. And we use 2 tools for that in my business. One is called a skeptic. And the way the skeptic works is I tell all of my leaders, when you have a team meeting every single month, every quarter, I want you to take 20 minutes out of that meeting, and I want you to brainstorm with your team how the marketplace is shifting, How's society changing? What's happening with customers? How's technology changing? Just get people to talk about it. How do they see shifts coming? And then ask the question, what, if any of those shifts, do we as a company need to be paying attention to? I do this in front of audiences, in front of thousands, and you watch the energy shift from people fearing change to feeling like, oh yeah, I see that coming. We could do something about that. They feel this energy shift of control. So the more you talk about change, the more comfortable you become for change. When you show up and have a change in your business, people expect it. Leaders think they're leading people for the current day. You're not. You're leading people to be in shape for next year. Now, the second piece of that is you've got to get people productive rather than busy. I think people are drowning because they're busy, right? Busy is a waste of time and energy. You need to be productive. So the counter of that is to just walk through a tool every quarter that says, what are we doing that moves the needle? What do we need to do more of? What are we doing that's wasting time? What do we need to quit doing? And what do we need to be doing that we're not doing? My point is, as a leader, keep people focused and then get them in shape for change.
I love this idea of like when you're saying goodbye to somebody at the end of the day or whatever, you're sort of like signaling to them we're on the same wavelength, like we have the same goal, we're part of the same team. It's a hopeful frame.
Yes.
It's not a fear frame. And also, like you said, when you're getting people's awareness to zoom out and they feel like they're included, it's not just like, well, from the top down, here's what's being dictated, from the C-suite or from the office. If they feel included in what changes are coming, some of those ideas that might not have been occurring to them, they're going to be tuning into those ideas and sharing them with everyone. And you've told me off camera, AI is not the biggest threat that's facing companies and organizations. What do you see is a substantial threat?
Everybody's focused on AI. Everybody's worried about AI. And I think that the biggest threat facing your organization right now is the lack of leadership talent and the lack of depth of talent. In the next 3.5 years, just 3.5 years, every single baby boomer will be eligible to retire. All these people with the wisdom, the experience, the confidence to weather tough times in your organization are going to be walking out the door. The number one job being replaced with AI is entry-level positions. Guess where baby boomers learned all those skills, where they gained all that wisdom, where they gained the confidence to fail and to brush yourself off and get back up. They learned it by coming in at entry level positions. We've not given the younger generations the opportunities to lead through incredibly challenging times, fail a little bit at it, dust themselves off, get back up and try again. And so with that, we're not going to have the leadership. Like, to me, everybody's focused on AI, but what good is AI if you don't have the leader in there to decide which AI tools you use, how you use them in your company? It's just, I think we're focused on in the wrong area.
That is a major turning point generationally that you just described. And you have developed a proven formula for thriving in uncertainty. I'd love to hear how you explain this to listeners. How can they apply this formula that you have?
It's 3 steps, 9 strategies. The first step is just adapt your perspective. You have to start to see uncertainty as a positive. You have to believe that when things happen in the marketplace, they're happening for you, not to you. When you are afraid of uncertainty, you actually move to the side of your brain that shuts down innovation, shuts down creativity, and that will shut down results. But the excitement is when you view uncertainty as a positive. Even you're going through a divorce, you just got fired from a job. If you say to yourself, this is happening for me, not to me, you move to the side of your brain that unleashes creativity. It unleashes innovation, and that will produce a very different and positive result. The second piece is to focus on people. Your greatest skill in uncertainty is to listen. And you listen to your network, you listen to your team, and you listen to the marketplace, because the path to growth and profitability is by listening to how the marketplace is shifting and what the marketplace needs. Get excited about what people are whining and complaining about, because they're telling you what need isn't being met in the marketplace and what they would pay for. So that's the second piece. Adapt perspective, focus on people, understand your job is not to have the answers. It's to ask great questions and to listen. And then the last piece is to condition for change. You got to really start and spend time, at least quarterly, thinking about how the marketplace is shifting and getting a good grasp and being honest with yourself about what you're doing that's productive and what you're doing that isn't. If you start the year and end the year using the same sales process, the same team meeting outline, you're out of date. Because think about how much shifts every couple of months. You have to be shifting with it. It's about micro changes rather than macro changes.
I just heard an interview with a teacher who used the example of those transparencies that they had in the drawer for 30 years, 40 years. So they would put the transparency on the light table, and they knew that they were telling this same information no matter what had changed in the textbook, in the classroom, in the world, in current events. They're like, all right, time to get out drawer number 3 and pull that out and circle, this and this. There are a few subjects in school that are sort of universal that you can do that way. However, there's a complacency threat. And this is what the teacher was getting at. She reached a point where she was like, it was no longer giving me any flexibility to adapt to what my class needed to learn. I have to have information that's helpful to them where they're at now.
Yeah.
And there was a time in your life when you were wrestling with your own version of feeling uncertainty. So how did this shape your approach to helping others go through this?
I faced so much uncertainty, but probably one of the biggest was I started writing this book in 2016, and I had it ready to go to the publisher just around 2019. And I got it all set up. I started to send it to the publisher, and COVID hit in 2020. And I kind of put things on hold. The publisher didn't want to publish the book and everything. And being a keynote speaker, I not only lost all my income, but I lost the way I make a living. I could no longer get on a plane. I could no longer travel. I could no longer get on a stage, and I could no longer engage with people. That was my entire business model. It required me to do all the things that now I was unable to do. And just like most people who, quote unquote, are experts, I was writing this book and putting this formula together for other people. I did not expect to use it myself, right? I mean, I'm an expert. I tell other people what to do. I don't listen to my own advice. But my whole world had blown up. I had nothing left to do. And I thought, I'm going to drink my own Kool-Aid. I'm going to eat my own dog food. What the heck? I'll try this formula out. I had my best year on record to date in 2020 when all of my friends were struggling. And all I did was just adapted my perspective and just really believed that, okay, I don't know why this is happening, but I'm going to believe that it's a good thing. And then all I did was call all my customers. All I did was ask questions and listen. And I just found opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. And when I think about conditioning myself for change, the very first virtual program I ever did was on a Zoom. I had that fake background. My hands disappeared. My hair disappeared, the whole thing when I did it. And by, in a matter of 6 months, I had a professional studio. And TJ, that was my goal. I didn't want to stop at telling people that uncertainty was a positive and giving them examples. I knew the next question out of their mouth would be like, okay, I get it. I can buy into that, but what do I do? And that's why I wrote the formula. I wanted to take all the guesswork out of it. I just wanted to be able to tell people, I promise you, do these steps and it will work. And I got to tell you, nobody was more amazed than me. I hate to say that, but I never really thought my research would work, and it did. That's the truth.
2020 gave everyone a fresh perspective on the importance of human to human interaction, live events, movie theaters, cafes, in person, anything that's an in-person book clubs. It doesn't matter what the scale is. Those are having a higher value, a higher ticket price, a higher demand now than ever because we experience feeling starved.
Yes.
Socially in those areas. So Mike Kay, a TV and radio host, said you were the best speaker ever at their annual conference. Can you share an experience that has stood out to you from all these different years of delivering keynotes?
Yeah, gosh, I have so many, but probably one that really stands out to me was I was working with a group of CEOs that were, it was private equity. They were funded by private equity, all within the portfolio of private equity. And every single one, I had 180 of them in the room, and they were all incredibly worried about the economy. The economy was going south. Interest rates were going up. They were so afraid about producing results because, if you're funded by private equity, it is all about results. You don't produce the results, you get fired. And everything that they were dealing with pretty much was outside of their control. So they were very much moving from a fear-based environment. And when we walked through the tools and the exercises that I had created from the Thrive system, you literally watched the energy shift from people who were fearing the environment they were in, from understanding the level of control that they did have and the actions that they needed to take, and the possibility was there. Now, the reason that excites me is because I had CEOs in the room. And what that tells me is when I can shift their energy, that's going to go back. It's going to shift the executive team. The executive team is going to shift the management team. The management team is going to shift, the employees. So it's going to cascade throughout the organization. And the ability to move people from feeling that they're hopeless to moving them to feel hopeful, it's such an honor to be able to. TJ, this is so mission driven. When I started as a speaker, I wanted to teach leadership. I wanted to go places. I wanted to do that. It's so much bigger for me now. I see people struggling like crazy, and it's so exciting to me to have the answer.
I always talk about the ripple effect with these big ideas, and I hear people every day citing, I heard this concept on a podcast. I heard this concept on a YouTube video. They're being exposed to so many life-changing concepts. It's like, all right, so all these channels are available. Just choose the one that resonates with you most. And you're a super accomplished author. You've written 14 books, and 3 of them have been bestsellers. I want to mention what those are. This is part of a trilogy of books. So number 1 is Thrive, Turning Uncertainty to Competitive Edge. Number 2 was Mentally Fit. And the third one is called Perspective. So when people start this trilogy, when they read Thrive, what is a takeaway that you want them to get out when they start that book?
The book Thrive is really the overall arching idea. It's the entire concept that uncertainty is a competitive advantage. When I finished Thrive and had it ready to go to the publisher after COVID and everything, I think we published that one in 2021, actually. The Great Depression didn't end at 5 o'clock. I mean, people don't leave uncertainty at work. And I took everything that I had learned in Thrive for a business and applied it to the personal life. And that's where Mentally Fit came in, because God knows we have so much uncertainty in our personal lives. I think it's one of the things that leaders really underestimate today is when people show up at your door every day, they've already dealt with aging parents, a kid that's flunking something, and a spouse or significant other that's lost a job. I mean, they're dealing with so much pressure outside. So I wrote Mentally Fit for that. And then Perspective was written as the last one because the most powerful, I don't know if it's the most powerful, but it's the most important of all the strategies, is the importance of a vision. If you do not focus your brain on the positive, there's nothing else that I've read and researched that is going to help you. If you don't master the mindset in the face of uncertainty in any challenge that you've got, you're doomed.
I wanted to share a quote by Mally Reynolds, who works with the National Association of Manufacturers. She wrote, "Meridith took the time to know and understand our audience, and in turn gave our members relevant information they could bring to their organization. I know that you can cater these custom keynotes, which is its own skill that takes a lot of sharpening over the years. So to book Meridith as a speaker and to learn about her books, her other offers, go to valuespeaker.com. And also you can download her research findings on her website right there on the homepage. And you can connect with her directly by finding her on LinkedIn by searching Meridith Elliott Powell. She also has specific coaching programs that center around sales, leadership, business growth, strategic planning. You're hosting a new free masterclass on August 27th. So what's included in this when people sign up?
I do them about every quarter. And basically this one on August 27th is on sales. It's literally, how do you drive sales in the face of uncertainty? What are the innovative strategies you need to be doing? Not the things that you've already got in place. These are the things that are really going to take sales over the top in today's marketplace. Then I'll do one on, I just finished one on leadership and succession planning. Then I do one on strategic growth, and I start all over again. They're always free, always giving the information out there. As I said, I'm mission driven. So I want people to have access to the tools and the resources. If you're fearing uncertainty, the steps that I would say to you is, number one, cast a vision. Just right now, take a piece of paper and write down what you want for your life 1 year from now, where you see your business, where you see your health, your finances. This isn't for anybody else but you. So dream big. Put that on a piece of paper and look at it 3 times a day. Look at it when you lose a job. Look at it when you lose whatever. Go back to that vision. And if you do that, I promise you, your mind will find what it focuses on. It will determine your belief. It will determine your action, and that will determine your result.
What I called that process that you described is, I called it writing yourself a success contract. Meridith, thanks so much for joining me for today's episode.
Thank you for having me. This has been a great conversation and a true joy.
To hear more experts share their story, subscribe to the TJ Moore Podcast on YouTube and follow this show on Spotify and Apple Podcasts to listen anywhere you go. Like and comment on this video if you found today's conversation valuable, and share this episode with someone in your life. I'll see you next week.